I wanted to do this short video on Nourishing Herbal Infusions and to share it with you guys. I absolutely love Nourishing Herbal Infusions for a few reasons. One, it's a very, very safe way to practice herbal medicine. So if you are new to the world of using herbs as medicine or in a medicinal sense, this is, like I said, a very safe but effective way to get to know plants. Also, it's an incredibly cost-effective way to practice this too. You know, when we start getting into things like infused oils or tinctures, there's the added expense of carrier oils and alcohol, which you won't have if you're making a nourishing herbal infusion. So how does a nourishing herbal infusion differ from a regular infusion? Infusion is basically a fancy herbal term for tea. It means that we're using water as our extraction medium. So that's what pulls out the chemical constituents, the medicinal properties, the medicine from our plants. And a regular infusion or a regular cup of tea, you're using a small amount of herb material and you're steeping it from anywhere for 10 to 15 minutes. With a nourishing herbal infusion, we're using much larger quantities of herb material and they're steeping for very long periods of time. They're also called long brew teas. So most folks use the term nourishing herbal infusion, but you may also see the terminology of a long brew tea. And that's what this is here. The end goal is to actually pull out large amounts of nutritional content from our herbs. So not all herbs are suitable for nourishing herbal infusions. Actually, it's a pretty small group of plants. We're looking for plants that are nutrient dense, meaning they're very high in vitamins and minerals and protein that our body needs. So what's kind of neat about nourishing herbal infusions is that for folks where high quality supplements are a barrier to you can't access them financially, you can substitute nourishing herbal infusions and get a lot of the macro and micronutrients that we need, that our body needs to function. So the end goal of your medicine is more nutrient. You're still going to get a lot of the medicinal properties, but that longer steeping time is necessary to help pull out all of those nutrients. Some of my favorite herbs to use for nourishing herbal infusions are stinging nettle, and that's what I'll be making a stinging nettle infusion for you guys in just a few minutes. I really like using red raspberry leaf, red clover, oat straw, linden, and mullein. Mulleine's a really nice one as well, especially with all of this respiratory virus worry that's going around and how most viruses, quite frankly, hit the lungs harder these days. Mullein is fantastic for respiratory. So in general, when we're making a nourishing herbal infusion, the amount of equipment and what you need is pretty basic. It's absolutely necessary to have a jar of some kind. I do recommend glass, and I do recommend having a metal knife, and I'll show you why in just a moment. Things that are nice to have but not necessary would be a kitchen scale of some kind. If you're gonna get into the world of using herbs medicinally, this is a very smart purchase. I think I bought mine for $25 or $30 like 17 years ago. So it's one of those things that, and I just replaced the batteries. So it's one of those things that you're gonna use over and over again. So kitchen scale, and if you have one, a wide mouth funnel, and then of course you're gonna need herbs. Now, because we're using a larger amount of herb material, it is smart to purchase in bulk. So I'll put some links in the comments below for suppliers that you can use, either if you're in the United States or in Canada. Other parts in the world, I'm sorry, I don't know, but I'm sure there's great companies out there. Yes, so that's as far as you need for supplies. So of course, you're also going to need water. While it's not necessary that your water is chlorine and fluoride free, it is probably a good idea that it is. So if you can either filter your water or get spring water, that's a great idea. So like I said, I'm going to be making an infusion from stinging nettle. My husband and I have been drinking about 500 milliliters a day, or we try to, so that's why I'm going to go with the 1 liter mason jar. And so for every 1 liter, you're going to want 28 grams of herb material. So this is where the kitchen scale comes in handy. However, what I'll do is I will measure out 28 grams for you, and then you can roughly see how much that fills the jar. It's usually about a cup of herbs. That being said, if you've ever worked with some of these plants before, you're going to know that our herbal allies like red raspberry leaf and mullein are very, I'll see if I can show it up on the camera, but they're very fluffy. They're almost like feathery like. So you're going to need a larger amount of these because they're not as dense as something like stinging nettle. So just keep that in mind. folk-wise, we're basically talking about filling the jar anywhere from 1/4 to 1/3 of the way full of dried herb material. So I'm just going to measure out my stinging nettle. We really like stinging nettle because it's fantastic for seasonal allergy, for preventing seasonal allergies. It's an excellent anti-allergenic. So if you have seasonal allergies, you want to get on the stinging nettle infusions now. You don't want to wait until you're all puffy-eyed and wheezy and begging for relief. You want to start now. It's also one of the more nutrient-dense herbs that we're going to be talking about. It is high in basically every mineral and vitamin that you could possibly think of, including high in protein and zinc, and really high in iron. So if you have issues with your iron levels, this is a great plant to get to know. So I'm just zeroing out my scale, and I'm going to measure out 28 grams. I tend to be messy, which is why I like my wide mouth funnel. Again, not necessary, but if you're going to get into herbs, canning, or anything, this is a really good $3 to spend. And I'm going to measure out 28 grams, so that way you guys can see exactly how far it filled up my jar. That's it perfectly. I'm just going to get my kettle re-warming here. It's pretty loud, so you may hear a bit of a rumbling in the background. That's what it is. So as you can see, my jar is filled, I would say between 1/4 and 1/3 of the way full of stinging nettle. So we're just waiting for that water. Oh, it's nice and hot. I don't even have to boil it. So I'll go grab that. And here's where the knife comes in handy. The knife is going to help absorb some of the heat from the boiling water, so that way your jar doesn't crack. This time of year, we're not running a ton of fires, so the house is not as warm as it is in the winter, so my jar is quite cool. And I don't want it to crack when I pour the water over it, so the knife is going to help absorb some of the heat. So I'm going to pour my water over the herbs. I usually stop about halfway to give it a good stir, and pour the rest. There we are. And I just made a stinging nettle nourishing herbal infusion. That is how easy it is. As I mentioned, the steeping times for nourishing herbal infusions are quite a bit longer than a regular infusion, minimum 4 hours, but in general, I usually make them at night and let them steep on the counter overnight. With the exception of stinging nettle, I actually like a longer brew time with nettle. I find it improves the flavor. So what I like to do is usually make it in the morning, leave it on the counter, and then tuck the jar into the fridge overnight and then strain out all of my herbs the next morning. And to enjoy it, that's basically what you would do, is you would run this through a strainer, a potato ricer, whatever you have. You can use cheesecloth if you choose, or if you have like a nut bag for making nut milks, you can do that as well, and squeeze out all of that herb material. And then you can enjoy your nourishing herbal infusion room temperature. You can warm it back up. You can enjoy it chilled with some ice. I love experimenting with some of the flavors, like with the red clover. I really like it with just a touch of honey and some lemon, so it's more like a lemonade. So you can really start to, play with some flavors and some ideas. Traditionally, nourishing herbal infusions are made with simple single herbs, so we don't usually combine them. And to really experience the benefit, I like to tell people that herb teas in general, either short brewed or long brewed, are what I refer to as long medicines. So they're not going to work like that. If I want the benefit of allergy protection or helping with seasonal allergies, with stinging nettle, I really should be drinking at least 500 milliliters of this every day for at least 3 or 4 weeks before I'm going to really start to notice the benefits. These nutrients and the minerals and the medicinal properties start to build up in the system slowly over time, and so it's really important that you're pretty consistent with drinking it. So what I like to do is pick one herb, we'll stick with that for about 4 or 5 weeks or so, and then we'll switch it up and move on to something else. Sometimes that's dependent on what's going around in the world. If we were out and still going to work right now, I might be taking my mullein every single day, but we're basically home every day. So for us, and especially for my husband, who's quite the sufferer of seasonal allergies, the stinging nettle makes perfect sense. And then maybe a little later on, we'll switch to red clover or oat straw. There are great herbs for the nervous system like linden and oat straw. So there's lots to learn. Speaking of that, I'm going to put some links below. I actually ran a full hour class on Facebook Live about Nourishing Herbal Infusions, and I go into a lot more detail than this video. I talk about all the medicinal properties, which herbs are my favorite, what minerals they're rich in. I actually show you how to press them and everything. So that class was available on Facebook Live, and I'll put the link below. I also will put the link to my handout. So if you're not into watching an hour-long video, or if that will eat up your data or your bandwidth at home, I do have a handout that's available on my website as well. I just put it down for $1 donation. It's 7 pages and it's got tons of information, including all of the herbs that are my favorites, why you would want to take them, and all of the minerals that they're rich in, plus the process on how to make them. So that is it when it comes to Nourishing Herbal Infusions. I hope that you explore these as a part of learning about herbs. There's no better way to learn about a plant than to intake or drink its medicine every day. So if you want to get to know oat straw, a beautiful way to do that is to drink an oat straw Nourishing Herbal Infusion for about a month. I always recommend people start a journal of some kind. So at the beginning of their journey, they can document, their energy levels and their sleep patterns and digestion. And then you can look back after a month of taking it and discover, what benefits have you seen. So I hope you like this video. Feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram. I'm on Twitter too, but I don't tweet too much. But all those links are below. And I'm also going to put some links to other videos that you might find interesting right over here. Thanks again so much for watching, and I hope that you embark on your very own Nourishing Herbal Infusion journey. Have a great day, and you guys take care.